Hello, my name is Heather Franchi, and today I will be discussing with you the concepts of patterning. According to our textbook, patterning is defined as the process of discovering auditory, visual, and motor regularities using objects and also numbers. According to the National Council of Teachers in Mathematics, of students in grades pre-kindergarten through second, algebraic standard expectations are that students will recognize and extend patterns and also analyze how these patterns are developed. According to Foundations, which is the curriculum being used in my practicum placement, the standard that addresses patterns states that students will recognize and duplicate simple patterns within their environment using manipulatives, art materials, and body movements. In kindergarten, according to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study, students learn how to create and extend patterns with actions, words, and objects. In Wake County, where I am doing my practicum experience, the expectation is that students will learn AB patterns, ABB patterns, AAB patterns, and AABB patterns. I will discuss and show examples of these types of patterns later on during this demonstration. Beginning next school year, Wake County will adopt core curriculum standards. These standards require students to use operations and algebraic thinking when creating patterns to represent addition and subtraction. In my opinion, this task is more complex from patterning with objects, words, and actions. In first and second grade, students are required to use number patterns to distinguish between even and odd numbers. This skill can also be taught using a hundreds chart and showing the patterns between the fives and the tens column. Also, students can count by twos and show the patterns as well in their hundreds chart. In intermediate grades, patterns are still taught. Students are required to explain patterns or rules as defined in our textbook. For example, if students were given the number sequence 3, 5, 7, and 9, they could be asked to extend the pattern and show which number comes next, which would be 11. Also, they would be asked to determine the rule. And for instance, this pattern, the rule is to add 2. Sometimes students are given the pattern and must determine the rule, and sometimes students are given the rule and need to extend the pattern. By learning number patterns, students are also able to learn multiplication and division facts, and in intermediate grades are required to solve problems using patterns such as these. They can become more complex and have to define patterns such as adding 2 and then subtracting 1 in order to move on to the next number. For the activities I have chosen, since this is a birth to kindergarten class, I have chosen to show activities for pre-kindergarten and also in kindergarten. In pre-kindergarten, students are required or expected to recognize and duplicate patterns. For this example, I have chosen to use pattern blocks. I have created pattern sheets using pattern blocks. This pattern demonstrates an ABC pattern, and students are able to understand that this pattern is extending. So they're going to see a triangle, square, rhombus, or diamond, and they're going to need to know that a triangle, square, rhombus comes next. To show this in a center activity, I would have this pattern sheet laid out, and also I would have pattern blocks, larger ones that students can manipulate with their small hands. With these pattern blocks, they are able to show exactly the pattern and which one comes next. They are able to extend the pattern, as I have 4 different numbers of the pattern blocks of each type. So even though this pattern shows only the pattern repeating twice, they are able to show the pattern 4 different times because I have 4 of each block. Also, students are able to recognize patterns in the environment. So for example, if they're going on a bear hunt and they need to pat twice and then clap, they may be able to recognize that this is a pattern as well because you are using actions when you pat, pat, clap, pat, pat, clap. In kindergarten, students are required to show patterns using objects, actions, and words. And like I stated before, they are required to show A-B patterns, such as these Unifex cubes of green and brown, AAB patterns, which would be these Unifex cubes of white, white, orange, and the pattern continues, ABB patterns, which would be green, pink, pink, green, pink, pink, and also AABB patterns, which where you see the 2 blue and then the 2 yellow. Students are also required to understand patterns using actions. So for the example that I have is that they would use snap, snap, clap, snap, snap, clap, and be able to recognize this as an AAB pattern. Another example would be to jump, jump, touch your head, as an AABB pattern. Students are taught these patterns during whole group instruction and often practice them in center time. However, during assessments, they are required to not only extend patterns, they are required to show patterns using actions. Students are also required to do patterns using words. For example, this could be frog, tree, tree. Or another example would be purple, purple, gold, purple, purple, gold. These are ways that students in kindergarten are required to show patterns. Thank you for watching my presentation on patterns. I hope you were able to understand what patterns are and how we will use them when teaching students in the future. Goodbye.